grab yourself a pair of scissors or a pair of secateurs and your favourite plant, because we are about to chop it and propagate it in water. Now, there are a few tips and tricks that I have learned over the years that I've been propagating plants this way for my online tropical and exotic plant nursery, for my house plants and for my garden plants. And these tips are going to help you get the best success rate when propagating your plants in water, even if you've been doing it for years or you're a complete beginner. This guide, and I will do it all the way through on this plant, should help you get the best possible propagation success rate just using the simple water propagation method. So my first tip would be to choose a parent plant that is healthy and it has got any virus or disease and it's not covered in pests. So for this example, I'm going to use this Plectranthus, which is a beautiful corrugated leaved plant with nice purple undersides and a purple stem. Now, a healthy parent plant like this, you're going to want to cut just down to a node. And that's because nodes are full of growth hormones. That's where the side shoots come from, that's where new leaves emerge from. And we're going to make use of these growth hormones, or auxins. And we're just going to snip here. And that exposes the growth hormones. Now, I'm doing a section that's about 20 centimeters or 3 to 4 inches. Now, obviously it depends on the parent plant how much material you've got available, but that is a good rule of thumb when you're propagating plants in water, because you want enough of the stem that's going to be able to go below water level, and then enough that's up above, ready to start producing new foliage when the roots have formed. Okay, so rule number 2 is never put leaves below the water level. So we're going to use just a regular glass, and we're going to want to put our cutting into the glass. Ooh. So if I put that in the glass this way, we're going to have leaves below water level, which is going to be up to about this level. And when you have leaves below water, they haven't evolved to be submerged. These aren't aquatic plants, so the leaves are going to rot, and that rot will spread through your cutting. So we're going to remove all of the lower leaves on our cutting material. So I'm just going to use my secateurs, or snips, or scissors, or whatever you're using to propagate. And I'm just going to put all the leaves out of the way. Now you can, if you've got sharp nails, just pinch out the leaves, but it's always best to cut them because you get a nice clean cut and you're not crushing the stem at all. And that's another point. Be very, very careful not to damage the stem. So here you can see, it looks as though I've been quite harsh. The cutting is completely stripped for all but the top, let's say 4 leaves. 2 leaves that are fully emerged and 2 that are just coming. That means that when I put it in my glass and I fill my glass up with water, let's go to that level, none of that foliage now is below water level. Now there's an added bonus here. Plants lose water in a process called transpiration, which basically involves water being lost through the surface of their leaves. And that water is usually replaced by the roots uptaking water. But this cutting has no roots, not yet anyway. So by removing the majority of the leaves, we're reducing the amount of water that's going to be lost. And this cutting material is going to survive longer because it's going to stay hydrated and give it time to grow roots to uptake more water. Change the water in your glass every 3 to 4 days, or at the very, very least, once a week, because it's just going to keep that water fresh. And fresh water from the tap is going to contain oxygen, and oxygen is essential for healthy root formation. If you leave that water in there too long, like I've done on this beautiful thing, the water starts to go stagnant and you get algae forming and bacteria, and it just promotes rot and unhealthy conditions for your plants. You want it to be as fresh and as clean as possible so that there is no disease or virus or rot occurring. If you want your plants to develop healthy roots like this, using the water propagation method, you're going to need to give them bright indirect light. Now, what does that mean? It means they don't need to be in full shade, because these leaves are still doing their thing. They're still photosynthesizing and still producing food to encourage the growth of those roots that we're looking for in the water propagation method. But you also don't want to give it direct sun, because that's going to increase that transpiration process that we talked about earlier, and the plant is going to dehydrate and wilt, and it will perish before it has the chance to form roots at the base of the cutting. Now, the next tip, I've forgotten what number we're on, is to check for pests and rot in your plant, basically any unhealthy conditions. Because when you've got loads of stems packed into one pot, like I've done here, everything close together could promote rot. So you just need to go through, and if any leaves have dropped off, just pick them out, throw them away. If any stems are starting to go mushy at the base, pick them out and throw them away. You're not going to get 100% success rate, but by pulling out any that aren't rooting and that are dying and perishing, you're going to help increase the healthy conditions in your pot, and your water propagation is going to be better for the remaining stems. Now, another thing to look out for is don't wait too long. If your roots get this big, you're going to have a hard time pulling the plants out and trying to separate them without damaging some of those precious roots that you've spent all that time waiting to grow. Your best size is about this size root system, because this is ideal to get it into a pot that's something like a 9 centimeter pot size, with a nice aerated soil mix to keep oxygen around the roots, the same reason we were changing water, to increase that kind of ability to grow in that healthy root zone area, and keep it well watered, because these are coming from being fully hydrated all the time into soil. So we want to reduce shock as much as possible. Now, I've seen videos online where people are mixing rooting hormone into the water, and that's not something that I would recommend. I would save the rooting hormone until it's at the point that you are taking the rooted plant out of the water and putting it into the soil. There's no harm then in getting some hormone in and around the roots, just a little bit, to encourage more root growth inside of that pot, which is a new environment. I think just keeping the water clean, pure, and fresh is the best possible way to do water propagation on garden plants and house plants. And it's a great way to propagate plants for beginners and professionals. Quick, easy, and very, very affordable. Now, you can see here that I have used old yogurt pots, small cups. Tall glasses are quite good for bigger cuttings. Things like this Brugmansia or angel trumpet cutting are quite good for tall glasses. But something that works really, really well are these old spice jars, because they are small and narrow, they're made of glass, and they're really, really sturdy. So for single stem cuttings, like this one here, they're perfect. So if you've got a favourite plant that you just want to try and take one cutting from, and you don't need a big wide cup, then this is one of my favourite vessels to use for water propagation, and they're free. We love upcycling and reusing things, so why not? You might have noticed as well that here, this is the bottom of an old fizzy drink container, and I cut it in half. These are some of my favourite things because, again, they're sturdy, and you can cut them to the height that you need for the plant that you're using. Hopefully these tips are going to help you get the best possible success rate with propagating your plants in water. Now, water propagation is used industry-wide. People use fancy misting systems, maybe special water mixes, but it's all off of the basic water propagation principle, and all of us can do it, no matter how little space you've got. You just do it on a sunny, bright, indirect windowsill, and you are good to go. You'll be multiplying your plants, and no one will be able to tell you off for spending more money on plants, because you are multiplying yours for free. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please, please, please hit subscribe. It's the best way to support this channel, and I am hoping to churn out some really great plant content about propagation, garden tours, weird and wonderful plants. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.